Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year, and welcome to the January 8th, 2013 meeting of the Downers Grove Village Council. It's my privilege to call this meeting to order. There are copies of our agenda tonight on both sides of the room. If you haven't already availed yourself of one, please pick one up and you can follow along with our proceedings here tonight. Included on that agenda will be multiple opportunities for public comment, both with respect to items on our agenda as well as items of a general nature, where we will invite to hear any questions or comments that anyone may have. It is customary for us to begin our meetings by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, so at this time I would invite everyone, colleagues and audience members and staff alike, to rise and please join us in reciting the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you very much. And now I'd like to ask our fine village clerk to call the very first roll of 2013.
Commissioner Rankin. Commissioner Barnett.
Here.
Commissioner Neustadt.
Here.
Commissioner Durkin.
Here.
Commissioner Waldeck.
Here.
Commissioner Schnell. Here. Mayor Tully.
Here. Thank you very much. That brings us to item 3 on our agenda tonight, minutes of prior council meetings. We have one set of minutes from our December 18th, 2012 meeting to review and approve. Are there any changes, questions, comments, or concerns with respect to those minutes from any members of the council? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Those minutes are adopted. Terrific. And as promised, we are now at item 4 on the agenda when we entertain general comments. This are comments or questions with respect to matters not appearing on tonight's agenda. So if anyone has a question or comment, the protocol is to please come to the podium, give us your name and address, please, and we welcome hearing from you. And we've got to have a village pencil or something to give the first speaker of 2013.
Well, I'm giving out pens anyway.
Guess what? Look at that.
My name is Leslie Abrahamson. Happy New Year, everyone. My address is 315 South Park Street in Westmont, but I'm only 1 block away from Downers Grove, and I frequently shop and dine in Downers, so it's my adopted second home here. I'm with the American Cancer Society, and our office is 15 minutes up the road on Myers, and we serve all of DuPage County. We're obviously a nationwide organization, and we offer free services to people who are going through cancer. So for cancer patients and caregivers, we have free wigs, free rides to treatment. We have free services for counseling and support services. So people might be getting good medical care, but we also have the other services that people need to get through their treatments the best they can. We offer prevention and education programs to prevent cancer. We offer programs to help people get through it when they're going through treatment. And we also do groundbreaking research to hopefully one day find, if not a total cure for cancer, a way to manage it so that no one has to lose their life from cancer. So we do some very important work. We're making progress, and I know it's a very scary topic, but the happy news is that we are making progress. We're seeing more survivors every year, and we want to make sure everyone knows where to get the help when they need it. It's available nationwide 24/7 through our website and our 800 number, so you can go to cancer.org anytime or call 800 ACS 2345 to get any help that you might need. And to pay for all those wonderful services, we have an event called, many events, but one of our biggest is Relay for Life. It's a community festival to celebrate cancer survivors, remember those lost to cancer, and to bring the entire community together to fight back against cancer. And it's done in a very fun festival way with touching ceremonies, live music, good food, and fun activities for all ages so the whole family can enjoy it. And Ballydoyle in downtown Downers Grove is hosting this year. They're giving us free appetizers and soft drinks, and that's January 16th, Wednesday. And anyone's welcome to come, 6:30 to 8 p.m., and you'll hear a little bit about Relay for Life. We have a very short, nice little program with some speakers, but the majority of it is networking, and we have some door prizes. So I have some flyers here for anybody who's interested, and where's a good place to, okay, take that. I also have a brochure here about Relay, so if you're interested in, if you can't make the kickoff party, to get interested, the event itself is June 7th, and that is at Downers Grove North High School. We've been away for 2 years because of construction over there, but we're back at Downers Grove North High, and everyone's welcome to form a team, to volunteer. It's a great volunteer opportunity. You can come day of event and help us out, or we need people ahead of time to help recruit teams and to be sponsors, so there's lots of ways to get involved. involved. It's fun, it's heartwarming, and it's a really great way for people to come together who have been affected by cancer. And we're looking forward to a Village of Downers Grove team if they'd like to form one, and we're challenging Woodridge to form a team of their own and see which team. The mayor's already told us that they're going to crush Woodridge, so we're hoping to get a little crosstown rivalry going and get two teams, but it's a really fun event, and the whole family can come and have a good time. Any questions? Or?
Thank you very much, Leslie, and thank you for sharing that. We're glad to have the event back where it belongs at Downers Grove North here in Downers Grove. I know a number of us have been to it in the past and missed it being here in our community, so we're glad to have it back, and thanks for letting us know that it's getting started. Any questions or comments from any members of the council for Leslie?
Well, thank you for your support, too. Just getting the word out is letting people know about it, so thank you. We hope to see you there.
Well, thank you very much, and I was joking that, I was going to challenge Mayor Murphy of Woodridge, but then he went up and resigned, or not resigned, but he's not running for office again. Maybe we should get some of the people that are running for his spot to double down. That's a good idea. Thank you very much. Any other questions? I'm going to get in trouble for that one, right? Yeah. Nobody watches the first meeting of the year, right? This is a practice.
That's right.
This is a rehearsal, right?
They just listen to us
right.
on the train.
A mulligan.
Exactly. Any other questions or comments of a general matter with respect to items not appearing on our agenda tonight from any members of our audience? Very good. Hearing none, we'll move right along to item 5, which is reserved for public hearings. We have no public hearings tonight, so we'll go right to item 6, which is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to any items on the consent agenda? Any questions or comments from any members of the village council with respect to any items? Commissioner Durkin.
Yeah, I just want to highlight one item that we're going to be voting on tonight. It's the resolution authorizing the, it's item D, the resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with the Illinois Department of Transportation for the traffic signal replacement at Main and Grant Street. I just want to highlight, I'm glad to see that we're actually upgrading the current pedestrian signals with the countdown. This is something I've actually been communicating with the village manager about for quite a while, since, I don't know, since I drive Dunham and 63rd Street after I pick up the kids, and the cross-country team are all standing at the corner waiting for the light to change. That I think would be a great idea if we could implement one at 63rd and Dunham by South High, especially with that countdown, so everybody knows how long the light's going to be green or red. So I just want to point that out, that this is a great addition, and I'm glad to see that we're starting to implement them near the schools, especially since there was such a concern, and probably still is with some people, regarding the crossing of students and just people in general across Main Street to the school. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Waldeck.
Since this is the first meeting of the new year, I would encourage everybody, the consent agenda has e-sheets associated with the information associated with these items. So normally these things just get passed with the yay vote and little comment. But there's a lot of good information in there. For example, what Commissioner Durkin was talking about. Also, you might notice the cost of a single traffic light, which is astounding. And I'm glad we're getting some help there. And also how much leaky pipes cost the village. With the water rates going up the way they are, leaky pipes at home will raise your water bill by a great amount, and even more so with the village. And I thank staff for the additional information. But I just encourage everybody to look at the consent agenda every week. There's interesting stuff in there. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. There is indeed. I appreciate that. Lots of interesting stuff on our website. Sometimes one can get lost reading all the fascinating information on our website. Thank you for that.
Shouldn't do while driving then.
It's certainly not while driving. Any other questions or comments from members of the council with respect to the consent agenda? Almost forgot where we were. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Schnell? Aye. Commissioner Durkin?
Aye.
Commissioner Burnett?
Aye.
Commissioner Neustadt?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. Consent agenda passes unanimously. It brings us to item 7, which is our active agenda. We have no items on our active agenda tonight. It's early in the year. So we'll move to item 8, which is our workshop or first reading portion of our agenda, where we entertain items for presentation and discussion and potential action at a later point in time. We have 2 items on the first reading or workshop portion of our agenda tonight. Both of which, as is customary, I will ask Village Manager David Fieldman, in case no one knew who he was, to please introduce those to the council. Mr. Fieldman.
Both of those items, Mayor, come to us from the Community Development Department, so I will ask the Director of that department, Tom Dabereiner, to present both of these items for discussion here tonight. Tom.
Good evening.
Happy New Year, Mayor and Council.
Happy New Year.
First item is for a special use ordinance that's been prepared to allow preschool at Downers Grove Community Church, which is located at 6600 Fairview Avenue. Is that right? That's, okay.
Yes. Sorry, like I said, this is just rehearsal.
Thank you. I just had to double check that.
Do the real meeting next week.
I'm thinking of a different project right at the moment. We'll put that out of my mind and move forward. We are looking for approval next week on the January 15th active agenda. And sure enough, look, there's the location at 6600 Fairview. And no other changes are being proposed by the church. There's the aerial, which is 6600, or Fairview Avenue is running left to right along the top of the screen, which is not how it's normally positioned. This is the area where the classrooms exist and would be in use as a preschool. And there are the existing classrooms. It's really nothing unusual about it. The school would occupy the existing classroom space, which is now used for Sunday school programming. It would operate Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays in the morning, 9:30 to noon. All required infrastructure already exists, adequately serves the property. The church and the proposed preschool are required to have a total of 74 parking spaces, and in fact they have 79 spaces. Importantly, the parking demand for the church does not coincide with that for the preschool, so works out well there. The majority of the traffic is off-peak, so there are few impacts there. The proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan for an institutional use to remain on this property. The Plan Commission considered the petition at their December 3rd, 2012 meeting. It found that the request met the standards in Section 28.1902 of the zoning ordinance for the approval of a special use. Plan Commission unanimously recommended approval on that date of the special use request, and staff concurs. Be happy to try to answer any questions, although since I fumbled the address, maybe not.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments with respect to this item from any members of the audience? Any questions or comments from members of the Village Council? No questions, nothing to fumble. Thank you very much. It brings us to item 8B.
All right. Here we have an ordinance that's been prepared for to amend the planned development number 19, which is Good Samaritan Hospital, to allow for permanent placement of a banner. And staff is concurring with the Plan Commission here to recommend denial of the petition next week on January 15th. Here's the location of the hospital. An aerial is shown with the location of the banner. And the location of the banner would be on Tower 1, which is located there. This is an aerial that shows the approximate location of Tower 1 and the banner. The proposal itself would allow 365 days per year for use of the banner versus the 180 days that was previously approved in 2009 as an amendment then to the plan development. The banner would continue to promote awards and special events. There are no other changes really in size or placement, so we're really only talking about the change from 180 days per year to 365 days per year. Plan Commission had a number of concerns, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time on those. First of all, the planner, there was a concern that the planner, when it's up year-round, just basically becomes background instead of a real good tool for announcing special awards or events. There was a concern for the reliability from use of non-durable materials for over an extended time, fraying of the banner a fading of the banner as well. It was pointed out by members of the Plan Commission that the size of the banner is 4 times that allowed for permanent signs. It essentially is a permanent sign at this point if it were approved, so there was concern there. There was concern over loss of the temporary, just the basic loss of the temporary permission-oriented agreement that we have now and moving it to a permanent status. There was a belief by the Plan Commissioners that 180 days is already generous, and in fact can be split up to really spread it out throughout the day or throughout the year. For example, 6 30-day displays, which I think is probably a little bit more rapid turnaround than they might be looking for, but also as well as up to 2 90-day displays. And then it was not clear to the Plan Commissioners how the banner supports the comprehensive plan's goal, which is expressed to support the hospital's operation, improvement, and modernization. There was a feeling that a banner doesn't really succeed at those things. And then overall, the Plan Commissioners agreed that 8-1 agreed that it did not meet the standards for plan development agreement. They did meet on December 3rd, reviewed the standards for Section 28.1607 of the zoning ordinance, and by an 8-1 vote, as I mentioned, believe that the Plan Commission's recommendations, believe that the standards were not met and made findings along those lines. Staff concurs with the Plan Commission's recommendation of denial. The one member in favor noted that Good Samaritan is a unique property and deserves this kind of unique banner treatment. Be happy to try to answer any questions. Laura Nyberg from the hospital is here with a presentation. I'm not sure if you wanted to do that now or maybe why don't you come up and...
Sure, and I guess I'll only point out that I'll leave it up. Good to see you, Snyberg. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you.
I'll only give you the option as to whether you want to hear any questions or comments from the council before making your presentation in order to help focus it, or whether you'd like to go ahead and present and then hear what people have to think. Entirely up to you. We're glad to hear from you now.
I think I'd like to present, and then because I might answer some questions that some of you have, if that's okay.
That's perfectly okay.
I promise I won't bore.
Whichever way I do it, the other way was more wiser.
I promise I'll try not to bore the audience, and I won't talk for a long time and give you plenty of time to ask.
Don't think there's any risk of that happening. It's always good to see you.
Thank you very much. We're having some slight technical difficulties with the presentation tonight. I saved it in a little higher version than what we have, so I'm going to get a little help here. So, my name's Laura Nyberg. I'm the Vice President for Ancillary Services and Community Health at Good Samaritan Hospital. Next. Just for some people in the audience, as well as potentially some council members who may not be knowledgeable about the lengthy history of the hospital and the community, I thought I would provide just a brief bit of background about the hospital. Good Samaritan is one of the economic engines for our community. We're the largest employer in Downers Grove, and we employ over 27,000 associates, which is the word that we use for our employees. We've served over 1.1 million patients since we opened our doors 36 years ago. And in 2011, we provided over $36.5 million in free care to those in need. We essentially treat anybody who walks through our doors. Also in 2011, we provided over $950,000 in donations to our not-for-profit partners that help support our efforts to help keep the citizens of Downers Grove healthy and the citizens of DuPage County healthy. Our largest contribution goes to the DuPage Health Coalition, which provides free care it's a mosaic approach to providing free care for people in the county who don't qualify for any kind of public assistance. Next. The hospital is and should be a great source of pride for the people of Downers Grove. We've been nationally recognized for cardiac care, overall excellence and quality. We are home to DuPage County's only Level 1 trauma center, which is the highest, most acute form of trauma. So we are the only level 1 trauma center between here and the Iowa border. When there was this shooting incident at Northern Illinois University, the students that needed specific care, something that a general emergency room could not provide, those students were airlifted to Good Samaritan. We are the first hospital and the only one in DuPage County that provides that level of service. Good Samaritan Hospital has received over 45 awards and distinctions since 2006, validating our outstanding achievement and reinforcing our community trust. That's an average of 7 to 8 awards per year, and someone had asked me, I think at the Plan Commission meeting, and said, are these awards that you apply for, or are these awards that are come to you? And I would say it's really a combination of both. The vast majority of these awards and recognitions that we get are recognitions that we receive because of publicly reported data that different groups go out and take a look at and evaluate hospitals across the country against each other. And so Good Samaritan has received over 45 of these awards, indicating that we are one of the best hospitals in the country. For many of you, I've worked at the hospital 31 years. I know it's kind of hard to believe. It started when I was 6. But you know, I think Good Samaritan Hospital has really evolved from being a good community hospital to one of the best hospitals of any type in America. And when I say of any type, I'm comparing it to an academic medical center, a large teaching hospital, small teaching hospital, or a small community hospital. We have been recognized by many organizations as being one of the best hospitals in the country of any type. That compares us to places like Mayo Clinic, Northwestern, University of Chicago. You have everything you need right here in Downers Grove, possibly with the exception of organ transplants. Next. There's a not-for-profit an organization called the Institute for Healthcare Improvement, and they're an independent not-for-profit that works with healthcare all over the world. And their goal is to achieve safe and effective care. And what they have done is they have taken essentially, they've kind of narrowed down what patients would require of a hospital. And they've essentially consolidated them into 3 things, 3 items, which is on the left-hand column on the page. So whether you're an inpatient in a hospital and you might be concerned about whether your bed is comfortable and your pillows are fluffed, or you're in the emergency room and you want to make sure you're not sitting there for the next 4 hours waiting for a doctor, or you're an outpatient and you want to make sure that the phlebotomist who draws your blood isn't going to leave you with a black and blue mark that's this big up your arm. If we consolidate everything that patients are looking for, all types of patients, surgical, inpatient, outpatient, emergency, whatever, we can essentially consolidate them down to those items that are in the left-hand column, which are essentially heal me, don't harm me, and be nice to me while you're doing it. That's essentially what all patients are looking for. And if we take a look where how Good Samaritan is doing in these 3 areas in comparison to other hospitals in the United States, I could really bore you with all of the dashboards that we use internally to measure our performance for quality, but I purposely put up essentially 2, no more than 2 under each category. So if we take a look at the category about heal me or fix me, 2 indicators that take a look at whether or not we are doing, how we are doing in healing our patients is taking a look at complication indexes and mortality index. And mortality index is essentially, are you surviving? If you walk in alive, do you walk out alive or not? So when we take a look at an index, we're basically taking a look at what our actual results are over what is expected. So unfortunately, not everybody who walks into the hospital or comes into the hospital is expected to survive. You get terrible car accidents. Not everybody is expected to survive. But if you are meeting a mortality index, if you are meeting your actual versus what is expected, you would expect to see a score of 1.0. Good Samaritan has a score of 0.66 when it comes to mortality. So what that says is that we are doing a much better job than what is expected for people to survive. We're saving people, we are healing people more than what would be expected to survive in Good Samaritan. And that mortality index of 0.66 puts us at the top decile of all hospitals in the United States. Now, by top decile in the United States, that means we are doing better than 9 out of 10 hospitals in the United States. That's what we're talking about. So if we're talking about complication index, again, it's the same thing. It's actual over expected. And complications would be anything from a bruise on an arm to not someone getting an infection after surgery. There's a whole list of series of complications that we measure. And Good Samaritan's complication index is 0.46, which again shows that we are in the top decile of all hospitals in the United States. When we take a look at Don't Harm Me, don't harm me, we take a look at a couple of things that we take a look at is one is called the HQA composite. HQA stands for the Hospital Quality Alliance Composite. And what that is it is a list of measures that measures perfect care. Not, a mistake every once in a while. Perfect care for 19 processes related to acute heart attack, congestive heart failure, pneumonia, and surgical care. And our HQA composite score for these 19 measures, again, puts us in the top decile of all hospitals in the United States. And depending on what you look at, there's approximately 6,000 hospitals in the United States. We take a look at the AHRQ safety, patient safety index composite. That measures 7 unexpected adverse events. And again, the score must fall within the Illinois rate with no outliers, no mistakes, no oops. We're looking for perfection. And again, the hospital's composite score is statistically better than the overall composite score for the state of Illinois. When we take a look at being nice to me, essentially we're talking about patient satisfaction. How satisfied are patients with the care they're receiving in the hospital? And we take a look at, we measure, if any of you have used the hospital services, you've probably gotten a survey in the mail. We measure satisfaction if you are an inpatient, if you come in and have an outpatient procedure, if you have ambulatory surgery, meaning you come in and we send you home the same day, or if you receive treatment in our emergency department and you are sent home. If we take a look and we combine all of our satisfaction scores together, again, Good Samaritan has been identified as being in the top decile of all hospitals in the United States. Okay? We have a very unique hospital here. We don't just have a good hospital in Downers Grove. We have an unique and outstanding resource here available for the people in this community. Next. So what is it that we're requesting? We are, right now, with the ordinance that we have today, we are allowed to put up a 1,200 square foot sign, and we are not asking to change the size of the sign. Really what we're asking to do is to change the time period from 180 days to 365 days, which essentially what we're asking for is a temporary sign with an extended time frame. That's really what we're looking to do. Next. So some of the things with supporting our request, ideally the outdoor banner we feel is the most effective way on campus to build awareness and deliver key messages to the community about who we are, what we do, and how we've been recognized as doing it better than most hospitals in the United States. We feel that the hospital is unique. We feel that that we are highly exceptional when it comes to providing quality health care. We are a nationally recognized healthcare provider from a number of organizations, and we are a healthcare provider that the village and the community should be proud of. I just want to be clear, the presentation that went before me said the hospital was looking to promote its accomplishments and events. We're not looking to use the banner to promote any event. We're not looking to put up, hi, it's our 35th anniversary, come on in for an open house. That's not what we're looking to do. So I wanted to make that clear if there was some concern about that. Our goal really is to be able to communicate to the community about the evidence-based medicine criteria and the practices that go on at Good Samaritan Hospital that help to save lives in this community day in and day out. And that's what we want people to do, to know about, because we do it better than any hospital in DuPage County. Given the number of awards, the reason why we're asking to extend it to 365 days is because we feel we need flexibility to be able to communicate these messages throughout the year. We don't know when these accomplishments have been coming in. As I mentioned earlier, we've received 7 to 8 of them on average over the last 6 years. We don't know when they're coming in, so we don't know when we would be changing something. And you're right, once every 30 days would be both cost prohibitive and not what we'd be looking to do. So essentially what we're really asking to do is for us to be able to create a temporary sign with an extended time frame. We're not looking to put up something permanent. We are looking to put up something made of durable material that would be up there that would last no more than a year, and we would take it down because we don't want it to fade, we don't want it to fray. The sign and the banner to us, the outside of the house represents what goes on the inside. So we would not want to be putting up anything on the outside that would look terrible, because it would be a reflection of the care patients would get on the inside, and we would not want that. The banner placement has been up before, and it does not interfere with any residential views in the area. Next. I think I might have flipped this from the way Mr. DeBreiner presented it, but hopefully you can see there's a yellow asterisk that shows kind of where it is. I don't know if there's a way to point to it, or does that pointer work? Yeah, it's right there. And you can see there's nothing residential. The houses are either to the east of that area, or they are to the south of the area, or to the north of the area. Directly, there is no residential area. There's no residential houses directly across from where the banner would go up. So nobody would have to worry about opening up their living room windows and seeing a banner outside. Next. Not all hospitals are created equal. What's here is a list of the various awards, some of the various awards which the hospital has received. And these are some of them you can see with the years we've received multiple times. And some of them are awards that we've received over the last couple of years. One I want to highlight in particular is kind of the one in the upper right-hand corner. That's the Leapfrog Group Award. This award recognizes patient safety, and hence anybody thinks that all hospitals are the same. I just thought I would go out onto their publicly reported website and go out and take a look at what our surrounding hospitals, what their score is versus Good Samaritan's score. You get a grade, A through F. Good Samaritan has an A grade. I went out and took a look at what some of our competing hospitals are. I took a look at the hospitals in South Cook, like LaGrange, took a look at all the ones in DuPage County, and then took a look at the ones in eastern Kane County, like Delnor, Rush Copley, Pravina, to see where they are. And you might be surprised. I also took western Cook County also includes Loyola. So you might be surprised to learn that the hospitals in these areas range all the way from a C to an A. And so some of the ones that you might think have fabulous advertising and sound really wonderful are really hospitals that have grades of C for safety. And I don't really want to bash anybody publicly, because you guys could go out and look at the website yourself, but you might be surprised. One I will just make a comment about, because it's not in our area, is Mayo Clinic. Because I think a lot of people tend to think of Mayo Clinic as being this bastion of fabulous health care. And certainly I wouldn't use the Leapfrog Group as the only way of judging quality care. But when I went out and took a look at Mayo Clinic and looked up Mayo Clinic on this website, their health system had a score of B, B like in boy. All the Advocate hospitals have a score of A. And I took a look at some of the hospitals that have the name of Mayo Clinic in the Rochester area, and they range anywhere from A to C. So the name of the hospital, or sometimes our perceptions of what good care is not really accurate. Hence, one of the reasons why we want to be able to put up the banner, to be able to really communicate to our residents here really what an outstanding hospital we have here. Just some of the other ones that are up there. The Practice Green Health one represents our commitment to sustainable, eco-friendly practices. And the Midas Plus Award, which we've received since 2008, measures safe and effective care. The one in the middle, the green and yellow one at the bottom, is magnet recognition for nursing care. Good Samaritan is one of only 400 hospitals in the country that have been recognized for the quality of nursing care that we offer at Good Samaritan. Next. Anybody who hangs around me long enough is probably sick of hearing about Good Samaritan and their Baldrige Award, so I won't spend a lot of time on this, mainly for some of the audience members who have not hung around me. Malcolm Baldrige Quality Award is an award the hospital received in 2010. It symbolizes the country's highest presidential honor for quality and organizational performance. We're the only hospital in Illinois to receive this prestigious award, and we are one of only 15 hospitals in the United States that have won this award since 1987. This award is given out. It did not start out as a healthcare award. In fact, it's not really a healthcare award. Malcolm Baldrige was the Commerce Secretary under President Reagan, and he put the Baldrige Performance Excellence Program together because he wanted the United States, he wanted to ensure that the United States would be competitive with other countries around the world, and he wanted to encourage advancements in innovation and economic competitiveness. So it really started out as an award that really started taking a look at small business and manufacturing. And over the years, since 1987, they've created other categories. There's categories for education, for healthcare, for not-for-profit, and there is even a category for government. So it might be something that Downers Grove government might aspire to at some point. We'd be happy to help you. Again, we're very proud to have received this award and continue. We have people who come from all over the world to talk to Good Samaritan about the things that make us different from every other hospital other than these other 15 in this country. Next. Mr. DeBreiner had put up kind of an example of the banner. This is an example of the type of banner we would put up. The banner would, again, not be advertising. It would not advertise events. The text would be brief. We want to make it something so that someone is not stopping or slowing down, going 30 miles an hour, trying to read a lot of text on a banner. We would expect something people could stop at the red light in front of the hospital, take a look, see what it is, and move on. The banner, the arrangement that we have made with the village is that we would share the content of these banners with the village in advance of preparing any banner and before we put it up and get the village's approval. So we had said that in 2009. We continued to support that. We'd be happy to share with the village what our messaging will be. And again, our messaging is not around events, it is around accomplishments. Next. As I said, the banner to us, the appearance and durability of the banner is critically important. We will monitor the condition of the banner to make sure it reflects positively on both the village and the hospital. The previous banners that we have had up before in the past have been held down very tightly. We've had no problems with anything blowing around on the campus or blowing off the building. Everything is held down quite securely. And the banners are intended to complement our recent exterior signage update. This banner, we do not intend to light the banner, so this banner would only be visible during the day. So if any of you have driven past the hospital on Highland at night, you'll see I think it has a very pleasant appearance at night with the lights. We don't expect this banner to be lit at night. Next. Again, we are recognized as a destination for world-class care. Over the last 6 months, we've had visitors from Japan, Mexico, Thailand, China, Australia, Malaysia, specifically come to Good Samaritan to see what we do and how we do it, because we do it better than anybody else. Locally, we have, as we found by looking on the Chamber website and the EDC website. We have a local RE/MAX realtor who posted on her website when she was trying to attract people to move to Downers Grove. One of the great reasons to live in Downers Grove is because the hospital, the local hospital and the community you'd be moving to is a recipient of the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award. Next. So again, thank you for your consideration in this request and your support of the hospital over many years. The hospital's been here for 36 years. We're very proud to call it home. Don't plan on going anywhere, and I'll be happy to address any questions I didn't answer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Ms. Nyberg, as well as your presentation, Mr. Dabereiner. At this point in time, if there are any members of the audience that have any questions of either presenter with respect to this item, please come up to the podium. Ms. Nyberg, if you don't mind, maybe just staying close, just in case the questions pertain to something you might want to answer.
I don't need a mic, I'm half deaf, so I talk well anyhow. Okay. Well, I didn't come for this, but anyhow.
Could you please start off by giving us your name and address?
Oh, Wayne Anderson, 4805 Cross Street, Downers Grove, Illinois, resident since 1972.
Thank you.
Okay. Basically, Good Sam is an asset to the village, and Good Sam should be promoted by the village. As far as the banner business go, I didn't know there was this regulation and this side of conflict going on now. But anyhow, if I might make a suggestion, how many banners a year do you propose on having with different messages?
My guess is there probably 2 to 3.
2 or 3. Okay. So, don't make it permanent. Put up a banner for 3 months. Take it down, have no banner for a week or 2, put up the next banner, take it down after 3 months or so, and put up a different one. And it's a temporary banner. It's not the same message every time, and everyone gets something new to look at. So that's my idea.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
You're welcome.
And Happy New Year to you.
You're welcome.
Other questions or comments from members of the audience? Thank you for being willing to stick around. The council may have some questions for you. Any questions or comments from either staff or Ms. Nyberg from members of the council?
I just have one. I was going through all the information. I saw we had one letter opposing this. Do we have anything from the Economic Development Corporation? I know in the past when the sign was originally came up, the Baldrige Award, back in 2010, we had a lot of information support, and I was just wondering, do we get anything from the EDC? Are they going to weigh in on this?
We'd be happy to if you'd like us to.
Okay.
That was Mr. Casa from the Economic Development Corporation. Off camera there. Other questions or comments from members of council?
No.
Commissioner Schnell?
Do you know, do other hospitals who receive awards do similar things, or staff? Do other communities allow banners like we do for a specific period, larger banners that are allowed through site ordinance for a limited period of time? Or in the case of a hospital or something, do they allow it forever or 365 days a year? Is there any, do you know, or does staff know, or can staff find out if this is something that other hospitals do and they're allowed to do it 365, or if it's a very limited amount of time, which is what we did for Good Sam a few years ago?
Yeah, and I think probably staff could probably be the better ones to ask about what other communities do, or the length of period that other communities allow it. I do know that that other hospitals will put up banners for how long they put them up, and are they doing them for accomplishments or events or whatever. You know, I know they put them up. I don't know what they put them up for. Okay. The one comment I would just want to make, and again, one of the reasons why we're really looking for the maximum amount of flexibility in applying the banner is a couple of reasons. As I mentioned before, a lot of these accomplishments and a lot of this recognition, we don't go out and seek. We get a phone call. Dave Fox, our CEO, gets a phone call that says, "Hi, I'm the CEO of the Delta Group, and I just wanted you to know." Or he gets a letter in the mail who says, "We just wanted you to know." Putting up, as you can well imagine, putting up a 1,200 square foot banner is not like putting up Christmas decorations. It weighs a ton. Making sure that we attach it to the building so that it doesn't blow around or blow away is costly and expensive. And we would much rather have the flexibility to be able to take the money that it would cost us to take it down and put it up and fabricate it. We'd much rather be able to take that money and put it into healthcare and have the flexibility to do it. The example that I put up had a date on there for a year. Some of the awards that we receive are time limiting. So if we get an award for, say, the year 2012, like the banner that we had originally started with, probably would not be what we put up because we'd probably be looking to see if we won that award in 2013 because 2012's gone. But, you know, some of it is time sensitive. So again, the other reason we look for the flexibility is because of some of the awards are permanent and forever, like the Baldridge Award is forever. You win it once, you have it forever. But some of the other awards are time sensitive. They're good for 12 months and that's it.
Which is why I guess I asked why other communities do, because my feeling is if you get a phone call, Loyola or University of Chicago or somebody else may get a phone call saying you've been recognized as whatever. And you know, if it's possible before next week to get something like that, that would be great, just to have a clear understanding.
We will provide other communities temporary sign regs, permanent sign regs, and to the extent they allow variations for these types of signs at hospitals.
I think it would just be interesting, again, I think if it's up 365 days, do people just get immune to it being there? I go past the hospital, I can't tell you how many times a day because I live a block and a half from there. And I couldn't tell you sometimes what your banner says because you get immune to it and you go, oh, it's there, and you go past it. So I don't know if having it 365 days would actually help you get your message across either. I don't know, and that's why I'm trying to get some additional information. So.
Yeah, and you wouldn't know what the banner says now because it's not there. But yeah, I think the idea of the 365 days was for flexibility.
White thing that goes down,
right?
You know, so.
Right. The idea of it was for flexibility. Okay. More questions?
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments from members of the council? Well, thank you for the presentation. One thing I do know is that Good Samaritan Hospital is an exceptional healthcare facility. Some of the things I was going to say were included in your presentation. I also know that it's an extraordinary community resource and one of great pride for both the hospital and the community. I know that it's I think you said economic driver. There's no question about it. It attracts people far and wide to our community for a whole host of reasons, and I'm almost wishing that we sort of captured your presentation because we could put it on the Economic Development Corporation's website to attract businesses to Downers Grove. All that is without question. And it's also without question that Good Samaritan Hospital has been a terrific community partner in more ways than time permits to explain here tonight. And its representatives, including yourself, have been recognized for their community involvement in many informal and formal ways. There's no question about it. But what we have here is kind of a tricky situation because we're dealing with a sign ordinance and the criteria for plan unit developments, which are somewhat intersecting but not perfectly with what is at heart a sign request. And what I don't know is how all this comes together because on the one hand, clearly what currently exists is by any measure very, very, very generous. And just for comparison purposes, I think it was outlined in the materials that for a general business in Downers Grove, they are able to put up a temporary sign up to, what, 332 square feet for 8 weeks?
32 square feet.
32, okay, well, there you go. That's going to make the point even greater. 32 square feet for 8 weeks. And what Good Samaritan Hospital is currently allowed to do in a very unique situation, and I think recognizing it's a unique situation, 1,500 square feet for 26 weeks. And I mean, this banner, obviously we've all seen it. It's hard to miss. It's 3 stories high. I'm struggling with the fact that I think the uniqueness and the desire for both the hospital, and I understand it, the hospital wants to beam with pride for all these accomplishments, which are extraordinarily unparalleled. And the community wants to celebrate it too, no question about it. But whether more of more is necessarily appropriate, I don't know. And I'm also very concerned, as I think I know from comments in the Plan Commission, about the bigger issue of establishing precedent. Because obviously, Good Samaritan Hospital is it's almost unfair to call you a business without equal, but we have a lot of other businesses in town who I guarantee you, if given the opportunity, would love to come up here and tell us how fantastic they are, and many of them would be right.
The couple of things I just
So I'm struggling with that because a large part of the request is, we are that good that we deserve, in many respects, recognition above and beyond others. I don't think there's any dispute. But what currently exists, I think, as I noted, is already unique, and I think reflects the unique status and a lot of things you've already mentioned. And now this is basically saying, a 3-story banner year-round. Now, it may not be the same banner every year, I get that. But nobody else comes even close to that kind of treatment. So those are some of the things I'm struggling with. Obviously, this is a workshop, and I'm just sort of expressing some of the concerns I have, and that's a big one. It's precedent, because I can think of other situations, and there are probably some people here in the audience who have made requests over the years for certain kind of signage and different treatment because of their status, and they've been turned down. So I'm concerned about that as well. And I get the desire to communicate as broadly and as efficiently and as effectively as possible the extraordinary accomplishments of the hospital, which, again, are beyond dispute and unparalleled in many ways. But candidly, I follow, just for example, most of the exploits and accomplishments of the hospital through Twitter. You have some great social media staff. And so my question is, how media becomes far and wide and changing, and people get different information in different ways. We struggle with that all the time, trying to even promote different programs and activities and accomplishments of the village. And we have, and again, I'm not trying to get into a discussion about what's the best way to communicate, don't get me wrong, but it may not, and what I'm trying to focus in on is, given, Laura, what you've described as the identified purpose and goal, is this next leap beyond what's already a unique situation necessarily justified or required by it? And that's kind of what I'm struggling with. So anyway, it's a workshop. We're not making any decisions tonight. Those are just some of my thoughts that I throw out there for my colleagues and everyone who may have a stake in this issue.
And I just want to make one more comment, and then if there are no questions, I'll sit down. One of the questions that was raised at the Plan Commission meeting was around the idea of what's the criteria that we would take a look at to use that might say we might allow the hospital to do this versus another business in Downers Grove, or another business or another entity, whether it were the high schools or a church or the university. What makes Good Samaritan different, and why would we consider Good Samaritan as a request as opposed to anybody else, as you raised, who might come before the council? And I think there's probably 2 criteria that I think of that makes Good Samaritan different than, say, some of those other entities, and what makes this different. And the first criteria is that not taking anything away from any of those other institutions, but we're talking about an organization that has national recognition. As I've worked in Downers Grove for 31 years, it's a great community. It's a great place for people to live and to work. I know many people who have grown up here in Downers Grove and have moved into the homes, have bought the homes they grew up in from their parents, and are now raising their own families in the homes they grew up in. That's the kind of community this is. People who come here want to stay here because we've got great schools, we've got a great park district. It's a terrific community. One of the things that differentiates Good Samaritan from these other great entities is that, number one, we've got national recognition, which I think is something that is not there for some of the others, and that we're talking about things that are recognized as these are evidence-based medical practices that essentially save lives. This is not a merit badge. I mean, these accomplishments we're putting up there, we're not talking about Girl Scouts and a merit badge. We're talking about things that essentially save lives for the people that come through our doors every day. And I think that's really what makes us different than, say, another type of business like a restaurant that might want to advertise, here's our New Year's specials, and put it that size on the building. Our POB sits probably 30 yards off of Highland Avenue. I didn't measure it, but it sits quite a distance off of Highland Avenue. Part of the size of the sign is a reflection of how far off the main street that we are in order for people to see it. I mean, 32, Mr. Fieldman and I spoke today, you know, the sign ordinance as it exists, I mean, it'd be like spitting in the ocean and calling it pollution. You'd never see it if we were to put a sign up that size. I mean, I'm not sure people would see it from the parking lot, let alone from Highland Avenue. So, hence our reasoning for, you know, why we think, why we're requesting the council to consider this. And I thank you very much for your time.
No, well, thank you very much, and appreciate the presentation and the follow-up comments. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of the council?
No.
Thank you very much.
And that ends our first reading tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to item 9, Mayor's Report, and I will be merciful the first meeting of 2013 and have no Mayor's Report. We'll move to item 10, which is the Manager's Report.
Mayor, we do have a report tonight. We have some good news on the library bond refunding that we discussed at the end of 2012. And here to give us information regarding that is our Finance Director, Judy Butney.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you recall, village staff has been working on a direct purchase transaction for the Series 2003 library bond refunding with Northern Trust, our financial advisor. We received the bids today. 4 financial institutions submitted bids. The best bid was from J.P. Morgan Chase at 0.92% or 92 basis points. That resulted in a net present value savings of $132,000 on the sale, or 5.54%, which is in excess of the 3% in the parameters ordinance approved by council. To give you a comparison, a similar deal closed today in another Chicago suburb that is also rated AA+. They did the traditional public offering, and they had a yield of 0.97% with a net present value savings of $105,000 or 4.39%. So we were pretty pleased with the results, saving more money than we even thought.
I think it's appropriate to brag a little bit here about our innovation, because we used a different approach that also lowered our issuance costs. We've talked about the traditional things, some of the non-traditional things we've done to achieve and attain the AA+ rating. But this direct placement gets us great rates and lowers our cost of issuance. So I want to thank the council for authorizing staff to do that. And this is a direct savings that we pass on to every resident of the village of Downers Grove that's served by this library as well. So thank you for the vote on that last month, and we'll continue to go on towards the closing of those bonds.
Well, terrific. Well, thank you for taking that those parameters and that guidance and really turning it into something that's quite rewarding and very beneficial to everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the report, and thank you for accomplishing that. Any questions from the council on that report?
Just a quick comment. Good news, thank you for that. And we now have 2 different approaches to going out for bonding, and maybe it'd be a good idea to solidify some sort of policy or guidelines to determine at what point you present which procedure to council for going out for these types of issuances. Under these circumstances, we'll do this. Under those circumstances, we'll do the other one. So it'd be nice to get that in a more solid form. Thanks.
Mr. Schnell?
Just a comment. I'm this is obviously not my big area of expertise, but I guess I would like to have staff to have the flexibility to come to us and say, under these circumstances, we think this would be good. I mean, I think policies are great, but I also think allowing staff to look at a situation, look at whatever the funding may be, and be able to come back to us and say, okay, these are the reasons why, which is exactly what you did, but that we feel in this situation, this works better than that. And I'd hate to tie you down. I understand why sometimes you need guidelines, but I would hate to tie you down by saying, under these circumstances, thou shalt do this, when in actuality, you may be able to get a better rate by doing something else. And again, you know, a few years ago, doing this would have been unheard of. So a year from now or 2 years from now, you may have something else up your sleeve that you've learned about, well, that you've learned about that would allow us to refinance some of the bonds at a lower rate and save our taxpayers some money. So I'm not saying that the Bill's idea is necessarily terrible. I just would like staff to have the flexibility to be able to look at the whole situation and come back to us as a council and say, this is, in our opinion, this is what we should do. And then if we have questions, we can ask them of you at that time.
Bill?
If I can respond, I'm sorry if I misled you, Commissioner Schnell. Actually, I wasn't talking about policy. I was talking about general guidelines so that staff has a way of approaching this. And, you know, as there are changes in staff in the future, other things come up, you do have, you keep the flexibility, but you have the guidelines that when you present to council, it helps you outline and present to council better. So I'm not looking for a strict policy or any, you know, anything like that. Just that we note what the guidelines are and improve on them as time goes on. But yeah, keep the flexibility. Saving money is always worth being flexible.
Indeed. Commissioner Durkin?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think this is an awesome rate. Well, this is really, really good because I know where our rates are and what we would have bid if we were bidding, if we even did bid. I don't know. But the point is, 0.92 is awesome. And what I really want to highlight is that this is a refi. And if staff thinks that there's opportunities for refinancing, to come to us, to expedite it, to save money, in this particular example, $132,000, I think we need to give them the flexibility. I know the Chicago Tribune on Sunday was running an article, I don't know, 4 or 5 pages in length, all about alternate revenue bonds and how that is being a tool that's really hurting some municipalities. And that is just going out for lending. What we're talking about here really is the refinancing. And if you don't get a rate better than what we have, you're not going to do it if the market's not going to give you that opportunity. So I think if when we look out there, especially with our long-range financial plan, I would encourage us to really give that flexibility, because we're talking about a refinancing. I mean, you're not going to refinance if it's not going to save you money, and I don't see there any harm to the resident because you're not extending the period, you're just refinancing it basically for what the term is or a shorter term. So I would encourage us to do that. So, you know, congratulations. What I would even be interested in knowing, you know, just overall, and I don't need names of institutions, you know, Chase is a local bank, they're here in town, they just spent a lot of money in our south side at 63rd and Main constructing a new building. But the other 3 banks that were the bidders, were those local banks or were they more outside because of the scope of our financial advisors services that they're providing to us? And Village Manager Fielman, I don't need an answer now, I'm just making a comment, and if we can get that information, if you see so fit, that'd be fine by me. Thank you.
We will provide the information on the bond bidders and their rates, et cetera, so everybody can see. All of them were great, and I think reflects our conservative, again, innovative approach as recommended by Northern Trust, who's served us very well in the last several years on all these bond refis that we've done, going back to 2009 or so. And finally tonight, Mayor, if I could, one other item. It is 2013, and we have launched the stormwater utility. Bills are out for the south side, and we've been interacting with several residents and businesses. We will provide monthly reports at the last council meeting of each month throughout the year. So look for our first report next week. And that ends tonight's report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I can report that I received mine. Both of them.
I only got one for 16 bucks, so.
I'll trade you.
Okay.
Brings us to item 11, Attorney's
Do I
Report.
get the house?
Thank you, Mayor. 2 items to present this evening, both which will appear on next week's active agenda. The first is an ordinance authorizing a special use to permit a preschool facility at 6600 Fairview Avenue, and the second is an ordinance approving a final plan development amendment to the Plan Development Number 19 to increase the time period allowable for display of a banner. That is all.
Thank you very much. It brings us to item 12, Councilmember Reports and New Business. Start off with new business. And we have an item of new business tonight. And I don't know if Commissioner Waldeck, as the initiator, would like to introduce it, or...
Okay.
It's your privilege.
Thank you, Mayor. As mentioned in our last meeting, the final meeting of last year, we have this issue of raising, of expanding, or possibility of expanding chicken farming or backyard chicken raising in Downers Grove by through a number of ordinance changes. And I noted that on January 22nd is the deadline for the submittal of referenda. There's a lot of information out there. I've looked at hundreds of articles. I'm sure my fellow council members have done a lot of research as well. Staff has probably tons of information as well. And we've been gathering information. But when you look at what's out there and the conversations between the residents and the arguments for and against, it looks a lot like a he said, she said type of thing, and it has the possibility of impacting just about every lot in Downers Grove. Not that we're going to have an influx or an invasion of chickens, but it would seem so if the coop is, if suddenly your neighbor goes out and gets a coop and starts raising chickens, then it becomes a very, very local, very personal issue. So January 22nd is the deadline for a referendum. Referendums, as we know from the previous referenda that we put out, they're free. They are not going to cost the village anything to create that referendum and ask the residents what they would like to see or not see in the way of expansion of chicken farming in Downers Grove. So there's no cost. This is also advisory. So, for example, the mayor or any member of the council is not bound by the results of that referendum to be for or against the item as presented. So it doesn't interfere with governing or any theories of governance. A referendum could certainly go either way, and as I said, it's advisory. So we don't know what the results would be, and I think that since it is potentially it is a very serious issue and could potentially affect the health, safety, property values. A number of considerations are out there. I think giving the public an opportunity to weigh in on whether they would like to see an expansion of backyard chicken raising in the village, I think it's a good way to get public opinion, and it doesn't really create that it's advisory. It's not mandatory that we follow that. This is a quality of life issue. The impact may be large or small, and while I think the invasion of chicken farmers is unlikely, it can be substantial, and I think it's worth looking at. There are predator concerns, as I say, health concerns. So, and we've done this in the past. We've election or two ago, this council, 3 members sitting here, actually put out two referenda on something that the village council has no control over, namely, should the state look at pensions? I kind of think of that as a DUH referendum, because it's something they certainly ought to do. We didn't need to put out a referendum on that, and there's nothing the village could have done about it anyway. The other one was the elimination of useless or unnecessary levels of governmental entities. Once again, another type of referendum. There was nothing that the village council was considering or could do about that particular. It was merely a poll. This is a quality of life, and while effectively a poll, it is a quality of life poll, and it's something that your village council is actually considering. So what I've done, and I encourage everybody to, if they haven't done so, to look at what we call the e-sheets or green sheets, whatever. And there are 2 referenda questions, possible referenda questions on there. I'd ask you to, and I ask my fellow council members to look at those and see if it would be appropriate to submit that for consideration to our voters on the April 9th election. And the deadline, once again, is January 22nd. So what we do tonight, we could submit to staff and actually have a vote on that in time to put the question to the voters for the April 9th election, deadline being January 22nd. One of the questions is, shall the Village of Downers Grove amend the ordinances allowing for the expansion of fowl, specifically chickens and/or backyard chicken raising in Downers Grove, and/or shall the Village of Downers Grove amend ordinances to reduce property line setbacks to allow for the expansion of chicken raising in Downers Grove? And with that, I turn it over to my fellow council members for possible discussion and hopefully some direction to put one or both of these on the upcoming ballot. It's all yours, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. And obviously, I always embrace the use of the new business portion of our meeting for these kind of informal discussions to see whether we can then, it's appropriate to take something to an actual workshop discussion. So I welcome the opportunity. As hinted when you floated the idea, and appreciate the heads up, by the way, about putting this question out as a referendum, I commented then and will repeat now that I'm generally not in favor of handling policy issues like this in this fashion, whether it's a binding or an advisory referendum. Really, I think you said it best yourself when you characterized it essentially a poll. It's not really a referendum. You're really trying to get a gauge of public opinion on what is currently an amorphous issue. Because I'm not even sure we've defined what the issue is. If anything is clear to me is that the questions that we've gotten from the public, both pro and con, have highlighted the fact that you have to define the issue first, certainly before you could have a workshop discussion about it, much less put it out for a referendum where you expect people to actually exercise their right to vote on a undefined question. And that's no criticism of the language. I actually appreciate you trying to put something together for us to specifically consider, but I'll come back to that in a second. I think that our obligation should be to actually roll up our sleeves and work on the issue if we're going to work on it in the fashion that we have proposed, which is how we work on countless other issues, which is with the assistance of staff and the input from the public and the community in a workshop type environment. And in fact, I think we have proposed, and the date is now going to be January 22nd, to have a standing committee of the Village Council where we will focus on this issue and we'll have the opportunity for input, for public comment, in an open environment where we can actually work through these issues. You can't do that in a referendum setting. You can't do that in a poll setting. You're not going to get, I don't think you're going to really accomplish anything where I think the work should be done in the fashion and in the same environment and circumstances that we wrestle with countless other issues that are equally of quality of life. My concern is that if we were to do something like put out a question, shall the Village of Downers Grove take steps to enhance traffic control and speeding reduction in the Village of Downers Grove, you get a lot of people say, yeah, let's do that. But what does that really mean? It doesn't mean anything, because it all comes down to how do you accomplish that? And the language that we have before us, for example, talks about the expansion of fowl, specifically chickens or backyard chicken raising in Downers Grove. Doesn't define, what do you mean by expansion? Does it mean more chickens? Does it mean larger chickens? Does it mean having them closer to something, less close to something? And I think without having to really identify what that is, it's not going to provide any kind of useful information, even if we were to put it out, even in a poll. The other thing that I pointed out last time, and then I'll repeat here again, is that this is not a question of whether or not we're going to allow something in the first instance within our community. Residents have been allowed to raise chickens for decades in Downers Grove. So they're already here. They've been here for a long, long time. We have real-world experience with it. I'd much rather take that information, that real-world information, work it through our process, and find out whether or not it's appropriate to modify the existing ordinances or not. That could also be the answer, is that they're working just fine the way they are. There's no need to modify them. So that's what we're talking about, is a modification of the existing ordinance, not whether we got to introduce some new concept into our community. We're way beyond that. The other thing I have a concern about is we, as a council, don't even have the information yet before us to intelligently discuss this issue much less expect the public to have to vote on it. And what would the vehicle be by which the residents and voters would get the information necessary in order to responsibly and intelligently cast a vote, advisory or not, on this topic? I don't know how that would happen, other than they'd be left to their own devices to sort of Google things and then cast a ballot. And again, the result of that process would not provide, at least me, with any meaningful information whatsoever in how to exercise my responsibilities as an elected official and make a decision. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to sit down in the standing committee environment, hear what residents have to say, have information, have a discussion with my colleagues on the subject, and whether or not we're going to make a change or not. I think that's the way to do it. I think it's a superior way to do it. And I think that then allows for both elected officials, staff, and members of the public to deal with concrete information and specific proposals for what does expansion mean. Does it mean reducing property line setbacks? Are there other expansions that should be involved? I don't know. So those are the concerns I have in terms of trying to put this out for a referendum, because, again, I think really what you're talking about is a public opinion poll. I don't mean to minimize the importance of the issue or seem trite about it, but you could put I think we saw one on the patch, actually, where there was little button polls. Do you think it should be expanded or not? And you could get the same, no disrespect, you could get the same value of information from that as you could from these two questions that have currently been proposed. So I'm not in favor of proceeding in this fashion. I think that the more responsible way to proceed would be to deal with it in the manner that we have proposed, which is in a standing committee setting where we can really roll up our sleeves and get down to the nitty-gritty. But that's just my opinion.
And by the way, that standing committee meeting will be held on Tuesday, January 2nd at 6 p.m.
January 22nd.
What did I say, 22nd? January 22nd.
Sorry, it's just rehearsal.
Tuesday, January 22nd, the 22nd at 6 p.m. here in the committee room. And the staff report on that item should be out by the end of the week. So you will have some information published on our website and given to the council by the end of the week.
Right, and I'll just add to that, since you brought it up, because a resident asked me the question, will any final action be taken at that standing committee meeting? The answer is no.
No.
Anything that came out of that would have to come back up here and go through a workshop and then a council meeting. So,
But I would also encourage residents to come to educate themselves, or at least read the information that staff has compiled, because it's my understanding that it will be objective, that it looks at both sides of the issues, and it tries really to inform us as a council as to the pros and cons, issues related to it, whatever, that will allow us to make an objective, have an objective conversation and an exchange with residents on both sides of the issue. But I would encourage people who either have an opinion one way or the other, who want to educate themselves about it, to come to the meeting. It's more informal than a council meeting, and
I might actually roll up my sleeve.
And well, yeah, you're probably kind of tie on anyway. But you know, it's the kind of thing where many people will come without a tie, and we joke that all the time. But it is informal, and it's a way to engage the council in conversation, and perhaps your fellow residents too. So I think it's a good way of getting the information out.
Mr. Durkin?
Yeah, the only recommendation that I would encourage us to do this, based on the amount of email conversations, discussions that we're having, I suspect we're probably going to have a pretty good crowd. Can we have the meeting in here and not in the committee room, because people will be able to sit and be able to have time to talk?
We will use this room if we need to, if the committee room doesn't have the capacity to allow for that discussion to take place there. We think the committee room is a less formal room that allows for a better exchange of ideas.
I understand that, but I also would like to have a place where people come and can sit and be seen. I mean, versus, you know, I mean, I know when we meet in there for sometimes long-range financial planning, or when we have, or the budget, or whatever we were doing in past years, it's been tight.
If we get too tight in there and overflow, we will move the meeting right into here. It's right across the hall, so yes.
Commissioner Neustadt?
Thank you, Mayor. I prepared just a quick statement here, if you don't mind. While I respect our new business process and Commissioner Waldeck's request to have a referendum regarding the foul ordinance, I don't think that governing by referendum is what we were elected to do by the people at Downers Grove. We make tough decisions each week, and we follow a process which includes public input and comment, as well as council and staff research and information. All these opportunities for us to listen and hear what is being introduced gives me comfort knowing that we have the right information at the right time and can make the best vote. As for Commissioner Waldeck's proposed referendum questions, they are both ongoing as we speak due to another recent new business request and majority direction of the Village Council to staff to proceed with possible amendments to the existing ordinance. As part of this process in the Downers Grove way, as we just talked about, we're going to have an extra informational meeting on the 22nd to determine possible next steps and also possible action items that we can review with our normal council approval process. We'll have even more resident and council and staff input. I'm not in favor of the proposed referendum questions. I know our staff and this council, along with the residents of Downers Grove, can have a healthy and intelligent and informed conversation about anything from chickens to fire engines to stop signs without going to a referendum. I look forward to going through our process and make a decision based on fact and dialogue using examples that pertain to this issue, like visiting chicken coops that are out there, our own research, staff research, and conversations with anyone who wishes to add their information to us in favor or against this issue. So basically, to sum it up, I'm not in favor of the referendum, as it's pretty clear by my comments. I think that we make decisions every week that are sometimes even bigger than this one, and I look forward to continuing along with what we've already talked about doing with the informational meeting on the 22nd, and then having council direction from that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before I turn it back to Commissioner Waldeck for rebuttal, any other comments, questions? Commissioner Barnett, since you haven't spoken.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to repeat everybody, Mayor. You summed it up exactly the way I would have. Thank you. I agree.
Thank you, Commissioner Schnell.
Since I talked just about the 22nd meeting, I just want to make a comment about the possible referendum. I, too, am not in favor of this going to referendum. I view this similar to the raccoon debate, the outdoor burning debate, where there were pros and cons, a lot of dialogue with residents who came to meetings. They were issues, again, that could have been brought to referendum at the time. Obviously chose not to because, again, I think we're elected to try to gather all the information possible, both pro and con, listen to our residents, and then make the decision that is in the best interest of our entire community. That's what we were elected for. I think that's what we all try to do, at least hopefully we all try to do. And I think we would almost be doing a disservice to our residents to give up our responsibility and put it out to an advice. I mean, it isn't even a binding referendum; it would be an advisory. So, you know, if it went one way or the other, the group that voted for whatever it was that passed, if we voted a different way, all of a sudden it would be, I think, much worse. So, you know, if you have concerns, questions, want information, come to the meetings that we're going to have. We really want to listen to everyone and all their points of view. And from my perspective, that's the way that you get the input from the community. I know, as I'm sure all our colleagues, I've had lots of conversations about this with people. It's an education process, and both ways. And I think the more of that we do, the better decision we'll make. So I respect the fact that Commissioner Waldeck feels passionate about this. I just think in this particular case that it's not what we were elected to do. So.
Commissioner Waldeck, is your new business item? I'll give you the last word.
Well, it looks like it's going to go down in flames, but actually, one of the specifics, you talked about specifics, Mayor, it says, shall the Village Downers Grove amend the ordinances to reduce property line setbacks to allow for the expansion of chicken raising. So that is very specific, and
but I would beg the question, by how much?
You don't reduce it at all. Shall they reduce it? Yes, no. If the answer is no, then there's no reduction of setbacks, and you have the current setbacks as they currently exist. As far as education goes,
they're not even listed. I mean, this is my point. And someone reading this doesn't even know what the current setbacks are. What do they change for different properties? If you were given the option to reduce the setback, by how much would it be? Because maybe if it was 50 feet, you'd say no, but if it was 10, you'd say yes. And
Right now, we're not reducing any setbacks. It's 50 feet, so you wouldn't be able to change it. But regardless, it looks like the council's already made up its mind. I find it interesting that some people who are against referenda were very supportive of referenda that the village council had nothing to do with, was purely a poll, actually a publicity poll, that had nothing to do with the actions of the village council. But that was supported, yet this is somehow a silly suggestion, and I find that rather inconsistent. But regardless, as far as education goes, we've had many meetings, budgets, and important meetings that we have in the committee room. Very often, very few people show up. And you can almost guess, depending on the issue, which side shows up more than the other ones. But regardless, by putting it on a referendum, you are getting the word out there. It isn't just on online media and some print media on a scattered basis. Most of the public is unaware of the consideration of what it is we're considering, and it actually has an impact on their health and safety and property values and predators and all the other problems we have. We will have a meeting on the 22nd. If this was put on as a referenda, people might go back in before the April 9th election, maybe in March, or have it come up during campaigning. Have it as an issue, and people will be looking at it, and they will get educated, and they will be able to make an educated decision on April 9th, because even though we're putting it on this January 22nd, they have till April 9th to get educated, and they will have the January 22nd and a whole slew of information that usually comes out with referenda questions. And so I think it would actually enhance resident knowledge of the situation. But clearly I'm speaking to not a group that's in support, so I tried.
And again, I don't begrudge you for trying. I actually appreciate I welcome the use of the new business portion of our meetings. I think this is terrific. This is how we bring things up for discussion in front of everybody to hear and listen to and comment on. And I guarantee you that just because it's not a referendum doesn't mean it won't be a subject of some election. That the issues tend to have a way of infiltrating campaigns without any assistance from us.
And I don't know if there's any public out there. But
well, the only thing that I'll just point out is I can't comment on any past referenda. We're talking about this one, and
yeah,
especially things that happened when some of us weren't even here. I don't think that's fair to get into. And if it's a question of quality of life and public safety, we make public safety decisions all the time without putting them out to referenda, all the time, and quality of life issues all the time without putting them out to referenda. I think otherwise we'd be doing everything by referenda. And while some politicians live their life by what the polls tell them they should or shouldn't say, I don't think that's the way we ought to conduct ourselves. Again, I obviously expressed my view, and I take it that we have one member of the council who's in favor of the referendum proposal, and I didn't hear anyone else who was.
Nope.
Just to confirm that that's very clear that of the 6 of us that are here, 5 are against and 1 is for.
Thank you, Mayor.
Public comment at all, or no? I don't know.
I don't, on new business items, do we take public comment? I don't think we do. If it comes for an agenda item, then we will. Obviously, the public knows how to get in touch with us, and I'm sure we'll hear from the public as we haven't before, and we will continue. But this was a discussion about whether to make this an agenda item for discussion. Although I would note that this was on our agenda for a new business item discussion, and we did have a segment of our meeting earlier on for general comment, and certainly anyone could have commented on it at that point in time, as well as they can next week when we have comments of a general nature, and on the 22nd. So I don't want to suggest that there aren't going to be opportunities to be heard on this. There will be. This is just a procedural issue that we're dealing with now. So with that, thank you, Commissioner Waldeck, for using the new business portion of our meeting. The other portion of item 12 on our agenda, unless there are any other new business from any members of the council, are council member reports. And we'll start with the first one of 2013 from Commissioner Barnett.
I have nothing, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Durkin.
I have no report, thank you.
Commissioner Schnell. Commissioner Newstead.
Just checking, I believe the coat drive is still ongoing here at Village Hall and over at the Police Department. Through January 14th, 2013, the village will be collecting gently used coats and winter accessories of all ages. There are drop boxes here at 801 Village Hall, or Burlington, and at 825 over at the Police Department. So as you're cleaning up this next couple of weeks and days, if you have an extra coat, bring them by Village Hall and we'll donate them to some folks that need them. That's all I have today, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Waldeck.
I have nothing there.
Thank you. I just have two things. First of all, speaking of opportunities for public comment, we will have the first Coffee with the Council of 2013 on Saturday, January 19th at 9 a.m. And speaking of the Downers Grove Public Library, it will be held at the Downers Grove Public Library. We wanted to do it out at the train station, but somebody thought that was a bad idea in January, so we're going to do it. I just have to comment that today officially the holidays are over because as I was waiting for my train, the big Christmas tree was coming down and it was kind of a melancholy moment to see that it was officially the holidays are over. When that happens, that marks it. And on a brighter note, I will just mention that there are in fact 164 days left until the Rotary Grove Fest comes back to Downers Grove. And with that, I have nothing further. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
None opposed? Thank you very much. We are adjourned. Good night and Happy New Year.
Christmas is not officially over until next weekend.
8:30.
Lisa Church.